Hi, my name's John Hedges, living currently in Palm Springs, California. Born in Cleveland, Ohio, 1947, March 9th. I am in a relationship right now with a man, Jerry McBride, going on 42 years. I got dogs. I love dogs too. I have 2 beagles. Right now, the things that really matter to me in life, of course, my partner Jerry, and my friends, my health, and helping others. Like I said, I like to volunteer a lot. I think everybody should do that for something, anything. It's you meet people. I'm a friendly kind of guy, so I like to do that and mix it up with people. If my mom and dad were alive today, I think they'd be very proud of me because I did become a success in life, somewhat of a celebrity. I'm a hard worker. They taught me well, my mom especially, I would say. In fact, I even worked for her in a coffee shop one time, and it was just terrible working for your mother because you always she'd make you work harder because you weren't going to get special treatment. And but that taught me a lot of values. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but I grew up in a small town called Elyria, Ohio, and kind of got my first taste of the music business there. I would fiddle with transistor radios and stuff and technical stuff, you know. I still do that to this day. I started I built a transmitter, a FM radio transmitter, an illegal, you know, I forget what you call them, a bootleg station or whatever, and put a tower on the house. A tower on the house so I could go all over this whole city of Elyria, Ohio, met a lot of teenagers and all that stuff, and played records, talked in the whole thing. I would steal NBC News off to another channel, you know, watch it, get the clock going, do this, you know, in my garage. Of course, all the neighbors would hang out in my little studio. That's now we're getting interesting. The drugs. Because of the music, I grew up, you know, in the 60s. You know, acid and marijuana and experimentation. And when I had this radio station in the garage, which was detached from the house, and the tower, the whole thing, Mom and Dad had no clue. No clue what was going on there. And, you know, we were getting high and all this stuff. And the music was all rock and roll, and loved it. That was kind of my start into that. And a little later, I would say, when I turned 18, 19, I was beginning to be attracted to my male friends, straight male friends, as it turns out. In fact, all of them are. I still have 2 very good friends from that day that once I came out of the closet, they did not desert me. But it was strange. But coming out, it was just one day I got into the band business, booking bands in Cleveland, Ohio. I had about 10, it was called J&J Attractions. And I had many, many bands, and we'd book them at the local, you know, pubs all over the Cleveland area, all over Ohio. And one day I got a booking at a place called Dante's Inferno. And I could hear giggling in the background that it was a gay bar, and I didn't know what a gay bar meant back then. I didn't know, you know, whether it was a homo bar. So I went there and booked my #1 band, which was Flight at the time, and went in there, and that's where I met my partner, Jerry McBride. I still wasn't out of the closet yet, even though I kind of knew it. And I think it was like a month later, I was out. I fell in love with Jerry, moved in with him, and we've been together ever since. I feel living here in Palm Springs has given me almost a third life. I would say my first life was probably in Cleveland, Ohio. I do not regret growing up there in Cleveland in the Midwest. My whole, you know, grade school, high school, then moved out to San Francisco and enjoyed that tremendously. Lived there most of my adult life, but moving to and that's where I got into the music business and such. But then to retire recently, the past 5 years ago, I moved to Palm Springs, California, and I just love the weather, obviously. They tell me it's 350 days a year, it's sunny. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and once I turned 21, I came out of the closet as a gay man and met my current partner, Jerry McBride, and we both decided to move to San Francisco in 1971 because it was more free and more gay-friendly than Cleveland at the time. And we moved on to try to find work here, and I stumbled onto a job in a gay bar as a DJ. And from there, I learned, the love of music and how to entertain people through vinyl records in those days. In fact, in those days, it was the 45 with the big hole, and it was a big deal for me to take part one of a song like the song "Get Dancing" by Monty Rock and the Third or whatever, and to mix it with part two, so that you learned how to mix songs or keep that dance floor going and make people go crazy. And that's where I discovered my love for music, and moved on from there from club to club. Becoming a DJ, I worked at this huge super disco. This is when John Travolta and this whole thing was going on. Because I worked at the biggest discotheque in San Francisco, immediately the press got on board, and I got a lot of press, obviously, front page stuff in the local newspapers and stuff. So what turned out to my advantage was that producers from a local record company in Berkeley, California called Fantasy Records, famous for Creedence Clearwater Revival. Well, that's where Fantasy Records got together with Sylvester. Sylvester was a gay icon, is a gay icon, and they asked me to come into the studio one day to edit one of Sylvester's songs with my partner Marty Bleckman, who happened to be my, quote, light man in the discotheque. And we moved on from there. That's where I kind of learned how to do production by watching at Fantasy Records and editing Sylvester stuff. And it got to the point where Marty, my partner, and I, we would be brought in for every single dance song at this record company, Fantasy Records. And they would, when the artist was done recording, doing all the recordings and stuff, they would give us the master tapes, and we would go in and then edit them, for the disco long versions, and did that. That's really where I learned a lot. So I go, I could probably do this. So I started getting into producing and stuff, and I produced one record in a basement in downtown San Francisco called "Show Me Yours, I'll Show You Mine," with a gentleman named Barry Blum, who still lives in Marin. And we sold it the very next day. And I go, we got something going here. That's when things started exploding. People started noticing, well, maybe I have something. So the guy I met that we did the first record, it got released and got pretty good reviews. Nothing major, but enough to get you on the map. You know how it goes. And then people started coming to me, and then producing to get people to do the songs for, like, Sylvester. We did an album called "All I Need" with it had a hit song, "Don't Stop You're Moving Me." Patrick Colley was involved. He's a famous synthesis that came in and did tracks for us. A big song called "Do You Want a Funk?" And then other record companies came along. Moby Dick Records. I started working for them and did an album for Lisa and a bunch of their stuff that went #1. And another thing for Fantasy went #1. A whole album. They were great. It was kind of neat doing it. We were kind of one of the first people to take 3 songs on an LP, in the old days, LPs, vinyl, where we would mix them one song after another, so literally a DJ could put the needle down on the record, and we called it a piss record, because you could go take a pee, because you couldn't get out of the DJ booth at the time. So you could play side 1 of my album, Fever it was called, and do that. Then, a little later, so that was coming around, and I kept working. My buddy, this guy Patrick Colley, and my partner Marty Bleckman, who we did the mixing with, they started a record label called Megatone Records, and so I remained independent, so I could work for them and Moby Dick and Fantasy and all that, and write and produce songs or whatever with whoever I was working at the time, and had a marvelous time. I mean, it's really kind of a blur. I guess one of the first beginning proudest moments of recognition that I was actually had some sort of talent was I won the Billboard DJ of the Year from Billboard magazine, which is one of the most respected music magazines in the world. So I did that. I would say also Sylvester, for sure. Working with him, he was unbelievably charming man to work with in the studio, and to this day, and we're talking 2012 we're at now, I still get called on what was it like working with Sylvester and synthesis, Patrick Colley and Tip Werwick and the likes, and just love that. Something that I had to work hard to really get, people ask me this all the time, actually, everything kind of came easy for me in my, my life, my career. One job led to another, and more in the creative thing. And I'm just going to move forward because the record business, it lasted through the 80s, and unfortunately we had a very serious epidemic starting, which they called the gay disease, which turned out to be AIDS, which is now HIV. And I lost so many of my artists. The producers I worked with, the people that play all the instruments, and most of all, our customers. We're all dying like crazy. So that kind of ended that whole thing of producing records, and which was fine because I'll never change anything. It was a great time to live during that 75 to 85 period of time for me in the music business. And then I kind of coasted and did music here and there, and working at local popular discotheques and bars in San Francisco. And about 5 years ago, moved to Palm Springs, and tried to continue doing the music long distance with people, and it didn't work. You know, I am kind of a celebrity hound, or I don't know, a ham, and I like going to parties and stuff. And so when you're in the record business, you get invited to everything. They always let you in. So I wanted to get into something in Palm Springs that would get me into the parties, so the $500 parties and all that. So I do a lot of volunteering. I mean, a lot of volunteering, which it's very rewarding for so many organizations I can't even mention. This center, this is the latest one. I met some people from a local news magazine that would come out, and their gimmick was to put photographs of people at events. And like I said earlier, I wanted a way to get into events and stuff where I, quite frankly, didn't have to pay, and you get to the front of the line and all this stuff. And I took up photography, a whole new thing, photo shooting people. And you can't lose with that. Everybody wants their picture taken. And I've been doing it now for almost 3 years, and I'm still doing it. And that's what I'm currently doing. I have nothing to do with the music industry anymore, except do interviews like this, you know, from around the world, from past friends that have passed away that can't tell the story. And at times, I was just talking to my partner today, and he goes, I go, do you want to come over for this interview? He goes, well, you know, every time I hear the story, it gets a little colored, more and more. And it's true. With age, you do make things sound a little better than they are. But quite frankly, I wouldn't change anything in the world. And I always tell people to, even though people don't think you can make it in this, just keep going for it. I mean, it's a crapshoot. Life is a crapshoot. And if you believe in something, you're not going to give up on it. You just do it. And you will fail. There's lots of failure. And I've learned that I can take failure. I just fluff it off, you know. It hurts, but you move on, and then suddenly you get success. And boy, that feels good. That really feels good.